Parsons, hello.
Good morning, Linda. How are you doing today? And
I'm
finally, it's great to see some good summer weather.
Yeah, for sure. And last 2 weeks in particular have been fabulous. A little cooler today, but that's okay. It's easier to sleep.
Well, it's wonderful. We won't complain. We'll certainly take it. And of course, I think what we've been through in the last couple of years, of course, dealing with COVID and maneuvering through this pandemic, I think we're all very deserving of some nice, warm, relaxing weather this summer.
Speaking of open and transparency, your department came in for some, I guess, not criticism, but a little bit of admonishment from the Privacy Commissioner, who was trying to have, apparently the Office of Women and Gender Equality has to release certain records requested via an access to information request that they had blocked from being released. And even the process of the Privacy Commissioner trying to find alternate means to determine whether or not you were justified in blocking that information came up null. So now that information has to be released. So what's the department's perspective on all of that?
Well, about that, I mean, yes, I represent, of course, the Department of Women and Gender Equality, the office. We are a policy shop, but believe it or not, but politicians are not involved in an ATIP process at all. So I wasn't even aware, actually, about the request had come in with the Privacy Commissioner. We have designated officials and their public servants in each department to deal with such requests, and politicians were hands off. I mean, I wasn't even aware of it until it was brought to light, of course, through me to my communications director when media had gotten involved, but we're just not involved in that process, so I ultimately can't speak to it. And I mean, I guess the system is designed that way, so politicians are not involved. But there is a process, and the appropriate ATIP coordinators and the officials within the public service are indeed the people who deal with these requests and these processes. So really, ultimately, and unfortunately, that's all I can say about it.
Does it concern you, though, as Minister of the Department?
Well, again, the public service, of course, the way it's designed, I mean, we have a bureaucracy, we've got the executive, of course, elected officials, and it's complex, and it's like that whatever level of government, whether it be municipal, provincial, or federal. And I actually studied political science in university. I remember learning about this, and it is, they're complex government systems. I mean, and that's the way it is. I mean, unfortunately, there's, like I said, there's nothing else I can say, and I'm not involved in that process. So we'll let the Privacy Commissioner and the appropriate officials go through that process. And we're all at the mercy of that process.
Fair enough, and I wanted to address that because I know it was sort of, the elephant in the room for a little while. So what brings you to Open Line this morning?
Well, I wanted to talk about some district matters tonight. We just had the annual crab supper, actually, in Portagrave. The first one now, probably since COVID, actually. And I really have to throw hats off to the ACW, local St. Luke's Parish in Portagrave, for successfully ensuring that this event is a success for more than 20 years now. We had visitors from all over, perhaps the Avalon, actually, and as far away from Central, that were there last night to enjoy some great locally caught crab, of course. And I want to throw a hats off to the Andrews family, Eleanor and Clarence Andrews, as they're a big part of this, as I mentioned as well, with the ACW. And it's great to see some community events getting out in full swing, and everybody out, relaxing and enjoying and getting to visit one another in person again. And of course, all those proceeds go to St. Luke's Parish, which is a vital part of the community in Portagrave, they're in need. And I was down there last night, and I was happy to play some music, actually, for the event and sing some songs. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And lots of great events happening for Come Home Year here for Harbour Grace Portagrave. I also want to invite people to Harbour Grace. As you know, Linda, we're celebrating the 90th anniversary of Amelia Earhart's transatlantic flight from the Harbour Grace airstrip over to Ireland. We marked that actually back in May, but this is certainly an event that we're going to be celebrating all summer and all year for that matter. So actually tomorrow at the Harbour Grace airstrip, there are events happening, and all are certainly welcome to come and take in all we've got to offer here throughout Bay Roberts and Portagrave and Harbour Grace and Upper Island Cove and Spaniards Bay and all the wonderful communities throughout the district that I represent. But while we're talking district matters, I also want to certainly make my constituents aware and to remind them that I'm always lobbying, of course, and advocating for road work. As we know, Linda, road work is one of the top priorities across Newfoundland and Labrador. The province is responsible for about 11,000 kilometres of highway. And if you want to kind of put that into paint a picture, that's like from driving, say, from here to Vancouver. It's certainly significant road work and roadway that the province is responsible for. But Route 70 Bay Robert is in great need, of course, of some work. And I did receive a commitment from Minister Elvis Lovelace that we will see work happen on that. Also, the Port of Grace Peninsula, we have a lot of heavy traffic, of course, from the fishery in and out of Port of Grace, of course, every year. And so I just want everyone to know, I mean, it takes time, unfortunately. I would love to see things done right away, as everybody would. We have 40 districts across this province, but certainly the advocating is certainly ongoing on my behalf, and I'm happy to say that. And, of course, from a department perspective, we got some Pride celebrations that are happening. As you know, next week we're kicking off St. John's Pride. We're going to be holding, actually, a ceremony at the Confederation Building, myself and the Premier, and invited community stakeholders next Friday, so I'm really excited about that. Also, the town of Harbour Grace are kicking off their Pride celebrations on Thursday. And I'll be down there, of course, to join with the town and the team at the Splash Centre in Harbour Grace to mark those very important, of course, milestones in our history, and to ultimately promote inclusiveness and safe and healthy, respectful communities for everyone to enjoy, because we all certainly deserve that right.
So what's the latest on the Splash Centre? You mentioned them, and they had some difficulties there for a short period of time trying to figure out if they would actually be able to stay in the building that they are. Has all that been resolved now?
I'm happy to say that it has, and it took a lot of elbow work, if you will, or people working together. As we know, that the Splash Centre they're housed out of the former Harbour Grace Primary School, which was the former St. Columbus Elementary, in the school system, the K-12 system. So they're still located in that building, and it's my understanding that arrangements are being made through the Department of Education, of course, to work it so the Splash Centre can be sufficient and actually pay their way forward to occupy this building and all the expenses that are included in that. Because prior to that, one of the biggest problems is that it was actually being paid for out of the education budget from K-12, where it was a former school. And that, of course, was an arrangement set up some years ago. Prior to this government actually taking office. But plans have been made. I want to commend the dedicated team that are down there, the employees, as well as all the volunteers. Splash Centre is a very integral, very important community centre in Harbour Grace, not just simply for Harbour Grace, but it services the region, and it offers different programs from health and community services to Planned Parenthood to safe communities against violence are also located there. And we all know that they have a lot of great summer programming for kids. So it's certainly well utilized. There's certainly a big demand for it. And I think it's safe to say that all residents in Harbour Grace and the surrounding communities really value the Splash Centre. And I'm happy to say that we're able, by working together, it took some time, but, things seem to be on the up and up, and they're working out. And I'm getting good feedback, and people are happy down there as of now. So we'll do what we can to keep that going.
MHA for Harbour Grace, Port de Grave, Minister Pam Parsons, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda. Have a wonderful summer to you and all your listeners, of course, and as always, be safe, and let's take time to enjoy the summer here in beautiful Newfoundland and Labrador.
Indeed, and have a great weekend.